Hi everyone, welcome back to the Longina Phillips Design Studio in sunny Sydney today. We are going to be chatting to one of the designers about creating abstract peonies, abstract florals. So she's going to show us some little tips and tricks and we'll chat about that. So let's go say hey, and first we'll just do a quick look at the studio. They're pretty busy today. We've got a pretty full house. You'll be meeting some of them. We're going to do some more skill shares, so you'll be meeting some of them. So they're all really excited about that. And even though she's trying to get out of the frame, this is Beck.
Hi.
Oop, there we are, we're both
The
in.
pencils.
All right, so she's going to be showing us how to do an abstract peony today. Beck's really great because she uses a really kind of broad mix of tools. I'll just show you what she's got laid out here because it looks really good. We have, this is one she did, and we've got brush, we've got some ink, we've got pencils. Much of that you saw, but it's all ready. And we've also got one of these, which is just, that's a stock photo that, that we have in our reference library. And so we use those as a reference. So would you, you usually use a reference when you're painting?
I just find doing the abstract that it's better to do it from the photographs because you're using something that's real, or actually have real flowers as well. That's a really nice way of doing it, just as a starting point, because then you're going to simplify and abstract it anyway. So I always find it's better to start with the photograph or the real thing.
Nice. So it's not really, you're not expected to do this amazing artwork with just from your head, just pull it out of nowhere. Well, I mean, that always makes me feel better. All right, so I'm going to move the camera around so we can have a look at what you're doing, and we'll have a bit of a talk through it.
Okay.
All right, I might actually take it off this. Whoops.
We're going mobile.
We're going mobile. It's out. It's free. All right. So, if we're working from something like this, that's difficult. All right. How would you start?
So, looking at the photograph, how I treat it is, the thing with abstract, it's a lot of it's about what you're not drawing, or less is more. So I probably look at this and I start off. Shall I start drawing?
Yeah, go for it.
So I'll probably start off looking at that, and I tend to like just to rough out the shape a bit, accentuating the bits that I really like. I love all these little twiddly bits here where all the petals are sort of got a nice little shape. And then also I'm looking at the shape of it where I'm thinking, okay, there's lots of movement in here, so I want to kind of represent that. And also there's a couple of very dominant petals here on the edge. So again, I'm picking out elements of it. I find with abstract, the way I do it is I don't want to represent everything, because then, that's a whole different technique and that has as much merit. But for me, I'm just trying to simplify it and abstract it and just, just bring together the major elements that I like within that flower.
So you're not trying to do a realistic
one. I think
it's more about like the idea of the flower.
Yeah, and suggestions of the flower, and just, what I love about when I look at a flower, it's just all those little tiny details, like the little bit here, and there's little wiggles in the leaves. I love all that bit, and that's what I'm attracted to, and that's what I kind of want to represent when I'm doing my abstract painting.
So you're starting with, is this just a coloured pencil?
Yeah, so I've just got a few different colours, and the thing about abstract as well is we're not trying to, as you said, we're not trying to replicate the flower, so you can go a bit mad. Like I've probably chosen quite safe colours today, but you might just go, oh, actually I'm going to represent all of that with bright yellow, or you can play around with it a bit more because you're not trying to do a perfect representation. You can kind of go a little bit nuts.
And the nice thing about this as well is you don't really need like specialist equipment for it.
No.
It's just what pencils you have lying around.
Absolutely. And sometimes when you've got to make do with less, you end up doing some of the best stuff because you're making the most of it and you're really thinking, how's this going to work with me, for me?
I'll just show you what she's doing.
Yeah,
over
so
here
I'm actually just going to start washing some stuff in. So I've got some inks. What we have in the studio as well is we have, because lots of the designers paint, we often have all these old palettes, we call them. So it's paints that designers have already used, and there's all bits of dry paint, so they're really good. You might just want to have one dot of colour, so you can use their palettes as well. So yeah, I'm just washing in. I'm just going to start sketching in a bit of the flat. So again, I'm looking at areas. I've looked, there's a dark bit there, there's a dark bit across these dominant petals here and around the back. So I'm just going to loosely start to just almost like sketching it in with the ink, just to get a bit of form. But like Amelia said, you're not trying to do a perfect representation of it. And I might play around with the colours a bit, like I'm not just going to go the same colour all over. I might just add a little bit and then add a little bit of the paint in as well, just to get a bit of, and then it's all started to bleed quite nicely, which is, again, a little bit of the abstract.
So that's a mix of a ink and a gouache there that's happening.
Yeah, so I've got the coloured pencil at the back, then I've washed in with some ink, and then I'm just putting some gouache over the top. Or gouache as the...
Depending on what hemisphere you're from.
Exactly. And also play around with what brushes you use, like the pointy brushes will give you a different, obviously give you a different look to the flat-ended brushes. So I'm just going to go back in and block in a bit of this. So again, you can see already, even though I'm using exactly the same colours, it's changed again just by doing different techniques. It's making the same flower look really quite different.
And you're leaving some bits of the white. Is that for some highlight?
Yeah, so I'm just looking where it's a bit paler, and I'm actually just going to probably leave that as the page colour. I might,
rather than use white paint or something like that.
Exactly. I might just block in, because to me it's like a bit nice sort of yellowier tinge. Sometimes I just use the side of the paper just to double check what colour. And always do it quite quickly, because again with the abstract it's quite nice, the instantaneousness of it all. If you start thinking about it too much, then I think you lose a bit of that essence of abstractness.
Something quite free and fresh about an abstract.
Yeah.
And it's very graphic as well. You can see how this would work really well for us as textile designers, because it's very bright and would make great fabric. All the folds of the fabric, you can imagine all those colours working quite well. So this is... There's some kind of a dark blue pencil happening in there as well.
Yes, what I've done is, because to me it's got this kind of solid leaf, and I like the way it kind of pops next to the flower there, so I'm just trying to replicate that by doing it quite dense, but I don't want to do it with paint because I want it to have a bit more texture into it. So I've just put the blue in, and then again on the stem I think, oh, I like the blue, but actually I'm going to just change it about halfway down, just because I want it to change colour, is just change it over to the green. And then I'm actually then going to start washing in the leaves a little bit, just getting the shape. Again, just washing in the shape just to get that nice, just trying to get lots of movement and freshness into it. And then what I might do is I quite like doing the whole technique of doing a bit of wet on wet. So when something's already wet on the page, just painting over it again with another wet medium. So if you've done a bit of a wash and ink, going over it with a bit of wet paint, so they see what happens.
It's very much a see what happens. Like, try it out, see what happens. If you don't like it, try again.
Exactly. And sometimes, you know, you'll get stuff, oh, I couldn't have even planned that, and you love elements of it. And other times you might have to just screw it up, put it in the bin.
Start again, try again.
Leave that for another time.
Flip the paper over and have another go.
So like here, I feel like that's all gone a bit heavy, so I might just go back in with a bit of white. Just try and block in. I just want to sort of break that up a bit to get that nice.
So it's kind of about practicing a lot as well, like seeing what works, seeing how you get those effects with the different mediums.
Yeah, and what you like working with, you know, and how you like to work, because some, you know.
Right, so that was a bit of pencil over the top of white.
Yeah, so what I did, I just really like, in the leaf here there's a bit of definition, so I just wanted to put a little bit of that back in. But again, I didn't want to do it with paint, I just wanted something a bit more, I like the scratchiness of it as well, using the coloured pencils. But then I don't want to then, for me personally, I'm not going to then do that same thing on every leaf, because then it becomes a bit repetitive in this particular instance. I'll probably change the technique a little bit. Maybe what's quite nice sometimes is we have these graphite pencils, which is like a regular pencil but a bit chunky, and that gives a really nice effect as well. You know, you can kind of, I'm just starting to shade in a little bit this shadow on the leaf.
So going back in and adding those shadows in.
Yeah, and sometimes that's just because you need it to dry a little bit, to go and put a little bit of detail back in. Otherwise,
right, so you've gone and worked on the leaves to give the bud a chance to dry.
Yeah, a little bit, and then I might go, oh, okay, I want to just put a bit more depth in there, so that's dried off a little bit now, so I'm going to go back in and just try and give that a little bit of depth and a bit of shape there. And again, I'm going to start looking where I need some dark bits. I'm going to go and get some of my gouache, and I quite like this sort of just dark section there, so I'm just going to put something loose in there to represent that. And then here you see how it fades off, and you can kind of go back and almost extend your petals as well with just a bit of water, just to get that nice softness in some areas.
So that's quite a washy technique right on the edge.
Yeah,
just to give those soft
soft, you know, outer petals.
Absolutely. And that's it. And then we've got some nice buds as well. So again, sort of how I've done it over here, you know, just again, probably just the way I do it is I just do quite like to map in the shape, just roughly to give me a bit of a guideline, because you're kind of thinking on the hoof a bit with your what techniques you're using. It's quite nice to have a bit of a guideline just to get you started. And again, things like here, you know, the leaf, you can see the underside of the leaf and the top side of the leaf. So I quite like the representing that. So the bottom's a bit paler, and then I'll go back in and get a darker green. Just map in that sort of top bit. But just, you see how the leaf's got a nice wiggle to it. I'll probably just try and represent that a little bit, but not in too much detail. And then again, just washing in with the inks again. And it's quite nice now, you can be a little bit scratchy with the inks and the sort of washier paints, or you can treat it more as a solid. It's all experimentation. And I remember me and one of the other designers once were saying to a group of people that once you start thinking about it too much, then it's probably a good time to stop. So I can really feel myself now. I'm kind of reaching the end of what I'm doing here, because I think if I start putting more stuff, I can feel that I'm just doing it just to add, because my brain is probably almost flicking over into going, it's not really looking like a proper flower yet, you know, what do you need to do? Whereas now I just want to stop, because no, we're abstracting it. So if that
So
makes
before
sense.
you put too much in.
Yes, before you go too far, best to stop, because you can always step back from it and then come back to it a little bit later. But if you start to just wonder, oh, what should I put where, maybe it's the time to stop and come back to it at a later date.
Take a step back.
Take a step back.
Maybe go make a cup of tea. Come back.
Come back and go.
See how you feel about it.
Exactly. Any other questions?
I think we're pretty much done. Let me just pop that back in there. All right.
So we're on an angle then.
We are.
Nice. Let's just fix that one up. So I think that was a pretty good first skill share for us. Thank you so much for doing that. If you have any questions, even if you're watching this later, send them through. We'll take a look at it. We love getting questions. It makes us feel special. And we're going to be doing some more of these. So stay tuned and we'll let you know when they're happening, usually on a Thursday. Bye.
See ya.